You're now watching a clip from the Inspired by show. You can watch the full episode on our YouTube channel or listen on iTunes, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. So make sure to head over there, leave us a 5-star rating if you enjoyed it, and follow the show. There's the physical challenges that go through that, but there's also the mental challenges that come through it, you know. Whether people have had a physical illness or a mental illness, I often believe that we can rely on our loved ones a lot when we're going through challenges. And I've myself had suicidal tendencies and had some serious lows. And if it wasn't for my friends and family, like, there's no reason I'd be sat here, to be really honest with you. But I also think, from my experience, and I don't know what you would say, Mark, it's harder being the person helping the person struggling than it is the person struggling. I found it, yes, it was hard, don't get me wrong, but when I've had loved ones who have struggled, I find it harder because you don't understand, you can't feel, you can't hear, you can't see what's going on in their minds. You don't know what mood they're going to be in when they wake up, you know. What would you say about that sort of concept?
I would say that you're absolutely right. And literally just this morning, and I get this a lot, I had a woman message me whose son has just lost a leg. And she's like, I don't know what to do. How do I talk to him? I want him to talk to you and meet you. So I messaged her back and I said, look, in my experience, everyone deals with this differently. When he's ready, he'll be ready. When he's ready, give me a call. I don't ever want to be that guy that comes barging in your hospital room going, life's going to be great because it's great for me, because people just deal with things differently. But I absolutely understand what you're saying. It's difficult because you don't know what's in their head. Doesn't matter if you've lived with them every day for 40 years and you know them intimately, you still don't know 100% about the way they think and what they need when they need it. I think in those situations, for me, I just have to let the person know that I'm there when they need me, and I'll continue as normal, and I will give them a little bit of leeway if their behavior is a little bit different. But and it is hard. It can be draining. You've just got to keep going. I'm here for you, dude. I'm here for you. You know what I mean? When you need me, just let me know. But, you know, I wish we could just wave a magic wand and make it all better, but it's not that easy. So I completely get what you're saying and where you're coming from. Yeah.
And I think one of the things is not knowing how to react or act around the person. You know, again, I can only relate to the mental side of it. But, you know, when I was diagnosed with severe clinical depression and I was unable to work for about 6 months, everyone I spoke to, my close friends and family, just like looked at me different, like looked at me like I was injured, looked at me like I was broken, you know, and not knowing. I remember one friend said to me, oh, I thought you'd be crying when I saw you. I'm not always emotional, you know, I'm just sick. Like, it's a different type of thing. How did you find that going through both the physical and the mental side of people looking at you differently, treating you differently?
Do you know what's funny? I found it really hard to go home. So I live in Plymouth and my rehab was in London, and I could go anywhere in the world, but I always struggled to go home for that reason, because I felt everyone looked at me differently and acted differently around me, and I didn't want that. And I just wanted people to treat me the way that they did treat me before, and also not be like in their head going, oh, do I ask him if he wants help? Like, if I want help, absolutely, give it to me. I'm not going to bite your head off for asking me if I need help. I never would have done that before. I'm not going to do it after. But yeah, I've struggled with that, being around people that knew me. And I think because they knew me from before, in the beginning for me, it was massively a physical thing. You know, my whole identity was wrapped up in being big and strong and fit. And then now I felt weak and fragile and small. I didn't really want my friends and family to see me like that. I wanted them to see me when I was up walking and strong again. So yeah, it was really difficult for me, but also for them. Because like you experienced, they treat you a little bit differently. They'll maybe read a book on clinical depression and go, oh, maybe she's got to cry all the time. That's not the way it works, you know? Yeah, it's difficult for everybody, isn't it? Whether it's physical or mental.
Yeah, definitely. And I find it's, even if you go through it yourself, like, I get a lot of people messaging me about depression, and they've like, I've struggled with depression for years. I've read your book and I find it really inspiring. I'm actually not the best person to speak to about it though, because I struggle, because everyone's depression is different. It's, and I'm sure physical side as well, right? Everyone can cope differently. Everyone will have different challenges. You know, I talk about mental fitness and physical fitness, like, it's still a level of fitness. And I think I do look at I've done a lot of work on my mental health since going through it, probably more than I ever would have. I've probably overcompensated on the personal development, on the well-being, the meditations, the journaling, everything, to just make sure that I'm preparing myself for if it happens again, or, you know, my own health. I'm curious for you, Mark, because you were always very into your fitness physically before. But you haven't let this stop you. You've continued to go on a huge fitness journey. When did you decide to take that step as a triple amputee to still really push your fitness? I mean, you've done the Invictus Games, you've won some incredible awards and so on. Was it a given? Was it like a moment, oh, I'm a triple amputee, I'm going to take this next challenge? Or was it a journey for you to make that decision?
It was a journey. When I was in hospital, it was one of the things that, despite everything going on, one of the things that I found hardest to accept was that I couldn't train anymore. Only because I didn't know any better back then, right? And I was like, that's the thing that used to dominate my thoughts, is that I can't lift weights anymore, I can't be strong anymore, I can't swim, run, or any of these things anymore. And it got me depressed, and until I got to rehab and started trying to figure it out. But then it was a case of, because everything was adapted, and I had such a fixed mindset of how a fit person should be, how they should look, how they should train, because everything was adapted and was new to me. I didn't like it in the beginning. I'm like, well, I look like a weirdo doing it this way, and people look at me funny. And I'm very lucky that, you know, I had a friend who used to own a gym in Plymouth, and he gave me a key, and I used to go in there at 5 o'clock in the morning before it opened. Because if I got into a machine to do like 3 sets of, I don't know, chest press or whatever, I didn't want to get out the machine between sets because it took me so much effort to get in it, and I didn't want to also be in a busy gym and hog the equipment. So I'd go in at 5 in the morning with different prosthetics and different setups and just play around for about 6 months when there was no one in there. And I figured out a bunch of like core routines that worked for me. And then for me, it was just an ego thing of getting over people staring at me and the way I do things differently, and just thinking I don't care anymore. Like, I've got back what I thought I'd lost in my life, and I like that. And if I like it, I'm going to do it more. And if people stare, I don't care. I'm just going to do my thing. And, you know, the physical health and mental health go hand in hand. You know what I mean? I think that's been one of my biggest successes is knowing that and still training, you know, nearly every day if I can, at whatever level. It could be an hour, it could be 15 minutes. It doesn't matter. As long as my body's moving, that means that my brain's doing its thing, and I'm on track, and I'm feeling good. And, you know, you just want, I think ego, I've said this, ego a million times since we've been talking. I think once you can just put that to the side and get over yourself and just do what works, then the world changes.
Yeah, totally. You look at it through a different lens, don't you?
Yeah.
And I would say, my friends and family would say pre-depression and what happened to me, I was probably quite, I wouldn't say direct, but I was always very like, wanted the quick results, wanted the actions, but also was I had very short fuse. So I had like no tolerance for lack of respect. Like if I saw bad customer service, even if it wasn't me being treated badly, if I saw a waitress getting shouted at, I couldn't keep my mouth shut.
Right.
I'd have to go over and go, like, I don't think they deserve that. Whereas I'd say I'm a lot calmer now, because I've worked on my mindset and actually realized everyone's got their own shit going on. You know, you never really know what's going on.